Hi friends, let's take a look at Chainlink and Tezos together. We'll be doing all the usual technical analysis here, FOMO-free, greed-free, all that good stuff, helping you become a better self-reliant trader. Thanks very much for joining me. And before we dive in, just a shout out to everybody. If you don't mind helping the channel out, then a like and a comment would be very, very much appreciated. Let us know what you think about the crypto markets down below. I read and respond to all the comments as well, so I'm looking forward to seeing what comes from that. Let's get on with the show. So hello again friends, this is the 4-hour Chainlink versus USD chart. We've moved it up the 4-hour median line of the Bollinger Bands, but that's actually a little bit of a distraction on the go there. Let's hide that for just a second and zoom out and take a look at the picture. We've got all these yellow lines on the go. What do they mean? Well, these two diagonal ones and this serrated one that's diagonal in the middle of them, this is a parallel channel, and these horizontal lines here will they form part of a Fibonacci retracement. Down here there's a green one, and we can see that we're above that at 10.36. Of course, the current price is $12.64. So looking pretty nifty with regards to this being a valid Fibonacci. And we're actually above the 382 as well currently. Today's price action having taken us up there solidly above that zone at $12.21. Currently then the price is at $12.64. Put us right in here of touching distance, literally as we see the wick having come down and given it a kiss of this median line of the parallel channel, which we can hope now will act as support, having been retested as such post, breaking it as resistance. And let's see then how this responds around that area. Going up towards the top side, your next profit taking target comes in there at the 50% line at 1371. Now we've been up and around that area a fair few times recently with these wicks and whatnot. The real area to be looking to in terms of big profit moves then from this point onwards remains up there at $15.20 up towards $15.60, and that's what we need to look out for. Now here's the top side targets as we've had them drawn in then from last week's episode, and if there's a drop below, what the targets could also be, and this remains the case from the previous show. What we see over here is that we had a bit of a follow through from the triangular type pattern on the go, and if you look at it like this, you could have thought there's an Adam and Eve of some sort, or a head and shoulders perhaps in this area, and that we haven't managed to break below whatever the neckline zone would really be. It looked like we kind of came down and challenged it at this point and then moved back up the way. Excuse me, I want to sneeze. I think I'll get away with it. Not sure though. Right now though, the targets towards the downside remain the same, and of course the upside ones 12.20, 11.70 and 11 being on the downside. And of course, as we can see here, looking at these targets that we talked about, we actually got all of them in the episode, since the episode that I put out last time. So that's lovely to see. I didn't get 11, sorry, we didn't get 11, but we went all the way down to these other targets in terms of what we were talking about, and more or less did that right. So everything's kind of going along normally enough for us, so that's pretty decent. And yeah, cool. Let's bring up the oscillators down below. See that this previous high at this point over here at the sort of 1360 area was, of course, not bearishly divergent. It's a nice move towards the top side. There's a potential for a little drop of sort of hidden bullish divergence in at this low as we came up towards the top side as well before putting in that high. So far as well, managed to be find ourselves rejected from the bearish control zone up above our sort of key points of interest as well, with today and yesterday's price action. So that's decent, or just today's price action actually, sorry. So that's decent to see. 24-hour time frame, same story overall, but with a more emphatic looking candle going past this 382 over here and the median line of this thing. But you can see that the targets are still, in amongst all of this chat, as we can see when it was down on the lower time frames there. We go up towards the weekly time frame and just pop the Bollinger Bands back on. You can get an idea about how this fall down the way since the highs that we had in the summertime has just kind of brought us down towards the median line of the Bollinger Band, and then we found support. This is your 20-week moving average here overall. So we can see that, of course, this is all operating fairly well for us. Gives us a nice broader look at things. In terms of those targets, moving back up towards this area, this puts us in line with kind of coming back up and trying for a longer trend towards the top side. Moving down, over and closing out periods below this 236 here is going to see at this point us moving down past the Bollinger Band, and then we'll be looking at our previous lows as well here at the 930 area before potentially moving down the way. So that's kind of, your link dollar case from the small term frame up to the day and up to the week and everything that we're looking at. So that's great. Nice one. I hope you're getting value from this episode as well, because if you are, then maybe you'll be inclined to hit the like button, because that would be really appreciated. I'm going to look at XTZ USD just now as well, and from the same sort of perspective. As you can see, when we drop down below the median line of the Bollinger Band here on the weekly time frame, that's been negative for us, and we've found support at this using this pitchfork in the background, and we're coming up the way. And what we want to see happen is the prices move above 262. I think that's fairly makes a good deal of sense over the next wee while. That'll just come in with more of this same, could around 250 area really is what we're looking to. So the top side targets on this one really is that sort of 250 to 60 area, then the $2.90 to $3 area, then the $3.50, and then $4 if we were to go up and up and up and up. Now, there is this sort of idea that, of course, we could be going down to visit this area. I would bear this in mind as being sort of fake outs of the parallel channel, and maybe just extend it down the way, so that you can see, that would still be in the sort of the extension of it. So that would be okay. We've got this diminishing volume overall since the high up here. It's not been increasing as it's been going down the way, sort of blasting down, if you like. So we're doing okay on that front, which is good to see. And let's then go kind of down the way as opposed to how we did it last time with Link. So here we are, and we're in the midst of this potential sort of triangular zone just now. Plenty of distance left in terms of this if it wants to really fill it out. But we could be looking up towards this sort of 217 area as our highs, $2 as our lows. That's the range till we break it. When we break it, we could potentially be looking up towards, these areas such as the 240s, 230s. Gives a different perspective on things. The top end of the Bollinger Band coming in there at 220s. We've got to bear in mind that 222, 222 is going to be important for us for a lot of levels. And then on the downside, if you were to be looking down that way, that takes us down towards the lower end of our pitchfork in there at 174. These highs did come in with a degree of divergence, as you can see, just ever so slightly. But then again, it's within this consolidation phase we'd already pre-identified, if you like. Don't want to see this on the 24 become a head and shoulders on the 4, jumping down to that 4. This sort of distribution area, if it were to then drop down the way, that's how that would be conceived. So we don't want to see that happening. Instead, we want to see it moving towards the top side and getting past this. And if anything, this being more like accumulation. Symmetrical triangle at the minute, it's not giving us those really easy to identify hallmarks with regards to it, but we can see the Bollinger Bands here showing us the top and bottom areas of that triangle are positioned pretty neatly with regards to movements. Any movements outside with regards to this on the 4-hour time frame, until we see a different picture with regards to the shape of these things, would anticipate a retest of the triangle in the next sort of phase of price action. Looking at these, we've not really been doing higher highs or anything. This was a bearishly divergent high which came in. We've consolidated since. Okay, the story kind of adds up. The volume has come up a little bit, compared to say over here when we were diminishing. So nice to see that nice pickup in volume at the top point when the prices turn around. That's of course a key sign for us of potential for positivity. Now, of course, as well, that is the technical analysis for Tezos versus the dollar going week, daily, down the way towards the 4-hour time frame, kind of look at most of the things that really jump out at us on the chart. I mean, this isn't jumping out at us on the chart because it's kind of just saying chop, kind of lines up with what we're seeing up above, as an example of something we didn't talk about. Now what we'll do is we'll talk about the Chainlink and Tezos versus their Bitcoin and Ethereum counterparts. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this episode. If you actually are willing to sort of let the whole thing play out, that would really help the statistics when it comes to watch time and all that. And of course, like I said at the start of the channel, if you did get value from those two sections, and I know that USD pairings are the most popular, then of course, by all means, hit that like and subscribe button, because come back every day of the week to do more of this. Let's take a look at Link versus Bitcoin and kind of briefly sum up where we are. Finding resistance here in the 4-hour time frame at the median line of the Bollinger Band, the 20 simple moving average, if you like, and of course, having not really pushed outside of it with much gusto since having come down to these areas, but we did come down and put in a lower low, which turns out to be bullishly divergent. Pushing here at the top side would, of course, be the next anticipated move with regards to the layout of these things down down below, with the slight word of caution with regards to this downward trend potentially being able to pick up strength again, although it certainly looks like it's boiled off and it's going back into chop territory. Going up the way of the 24-hour time frame, you can see that this downward trend again still remains in chop territory. Hopefully we see a little bit of a turnaround with regards to the price action, which of course then came between these two lows here, as in on the 24-hour time frame, as being bullishly divergent across the oscillators down below. We had this triangle feature, I extended the lines right when I drew it in. Let me just go back down the 4-hour time frame. Extended lines to the right when I drew it in, just using a couple of points of contact here. As you can see, like on Friday's episode, then we saw that we broke out back down the way below it, and then subsequently have been kind of almost tracing it down the way. So we want to be pushing past these areas. That comes in at 79. Now there's key targets towards the top side, 90,000 being where the 236 is, being our first major port of call, and that's what we need to see happening, going past all of the structure of everything that's sort of the hangover of the previous price action, pushing past these zones here, taking out the 78 area first, then on at 85, then on up towards the 90s, and the 93k being a crucial area for us in terms of moving. Now, of course, look at this zone here. We're going to have fake out territory in and around about the dead zone, dead space between the clear horizontals, and of course where we see our curvy worvy Bollinger Wallinger bandy wandies coming in at. Let's take a look at Tezos versus Bitcoin now this time, and say, well, we have this sort of easy comparison to be made here with regards to the pattern on this 24-hour time frame. We've got a triangle where I extended the lines right. We haven't broken this one as yet, hoping obviously for a break towards the top side with regards to this, and not coming in and putting a lower low in, and that would be nice to see, avoiding that. If we did do it, the way this is shaping up at the minute, looks like it would be divergent across the board, but we don't want to see that happening. What we're seeing is a slight upward shape in terms of the DMI here. Don't like seeing that, but of course we can see things like this happen before ultimately capitulating thereafter, as we saw in these periods of price action over there in the past. So what I want to see happen, of course, is a sort of inverse of that, and for us to see the ADX kind of coming down a good chunk with this crossing over in the next wee while, as we look to establish ourselves in an upward trajectory trend as opposed to a downward one, which we've been in so far. Lower end of the Bollinger Band comes in, putting us in with a higher low. Just it's sort of skin of teeth stuff over here with regards to this one, but we could do that if we need to. Median line of the Bollinger Band represents fake out territory for us, but also the 236 coming in there. If we were to break out immediately from this wedge structure, we'd be coming in and just challenging that at the 1429 area, and asking questions thereafter, looking up the way, could we do these other targets. Got the Bollinger Bands there as a good sort of guide point for where we could see retracements to in terms of regression towards the mean, whilst we look to try and establish whether we've got a direction on this trend or not. Okay, cool. So that's also the Tezos and Chainlink Bitcoin pairings. All right, nice one. I think that's really useful to look at them. Now what we're going to do is the least popular part of the episodes, and it's at the end. Well, whatever. And it is, of course, the Ethereum pairings for both of them. Now, if you're actually watching through to this point, you're going to keep watching, let me know in the comments down below. I'd really appreciate it, because, of course, I know there are a few people that wants to know about this sort of thing, but very, very, very few, although it's a very vocal minority. That's the thing. So let's just jump on over towards Link versus Ethereum Bobs and see all this sideways that we've got on the go here. This low comes in higher than the previous low over here, but than this previous low. But this previous low is, of course, it's lower than that one. So you could say, yeah, maybe we're trending down the way, having moved outside of this ascending triangle, retested it in terms of support resistance, found our price action lacking, and we've moved towards the downside. Overall, though, this is just one of these things that makes me want to hit up towards a higher number and aggregate these together and say that this was our previous low over here, and this is a higher low so far, and we're doing okay so long as we stay within the realm of the Bollinger Bands, really, more or less. Over here, staying above the 25 or 24,870, let's call it, and until such times as we really move above 31, giving us targets, easily of the sort of 25 and 30 targets towards the top and the down and top side, looking at a kind of 2.5 or so either way on this thing to bring you towards either those targets were below the median line on the Bollinger Band. Let's see if we can eventually sort of recapture that. We haven't successfully opened and closed, consecutive candles above the median line of the Bollinger Band here in the 3-day time frame. So let's see if we get a chance of doing that at some point soon. Of course, we're looking at a number of different moving parts here when it comes to this. Just big warning is that we do have this volatility on the go. So perhaps, we see some things happen whenever the musical chair stops on that front. It's been a while since I pointed one of those out to people, really, although you can see it on the high time frames here. 2-day time frame having kind of stopped its volatility jig, trying to say that there's some sort of movement as a result of this up the way, but it's actually, it's not very convincing as yet. So we'll see how this goes. It's not convincing as yet. It could just, go towards the top side. If it blasts off that way, that would be easy. We've kind of encountered the numbers we'd be looking at if that's the case in the past already. We're talking 32.50, 35, 37, 38. Then let's go over towards Tezos. How long are we doing in terms of episode? This must be about 1 hour and 25 minutes long already. Let me just get my thingy up so I can see here. We are 15 minutes in. Okay, so a minute or two here and we'll be done. Looking at this, we've kind of got this potential trade up. That actually makes it kind of easy talking about what could be happening with regards to this one. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, none of this financial advice. I'd highly recommend that you do all of your own research before making any decisions with regards to your finances, and of course, liking and subscribing. Now, if we were to move above this zone over here on the right at 45, then potentially we've got a trade opportunity for us to take us up towards the top end of the Bollinger Band here at 51, or indeed extend beyond it a little bit, just, in terms of that sort of tickly, smoochy-woochy game that we love to play with these areas of zones rather than strict lines. And that puts in a target around about 53 with stopping out. If we were to go past that, on the downside, back where our previous wicks were, down there at 44. So I think that's kind of, enough. You can take all of the chat that we've had from all of the other stuff and apply it to that yourself to find out the reasoning for that potential trade. Of course, it's not on currently, it's just an idea for you, and that will do. How about it then? How about that for an episode? If you watched it right through to now, give yourself a pat on the back. Here we go. This round of applause is for you. Well done. Thanks so much. And just signing off by saying shout out to Andrew Castro for your great comment recently. And of course, there we go. If you don't mind helping the channel out, a like and a comment would be very much appreciated. Let us know what you think about the current crypto market. Thanks so much for tuning in. As always, it's been a pleasure, and I'll see you again tomorrow.